Right, hello and welcome back to another Villa on Tour video. You'll be able to see that I'm not in the usual environment. I am abroad. I'm in Ibiza at the moment on my holiday balcony. So if you can hear any background noise, people talking, aeroplanes, literally the airport is just over there, diggers, everything's going on today. So if you can hear that, that's the ambience of the Ibiza balcony that I am on. I'm joined as ever by Simon Lyons. Simon, how are you today, mate? You've just come back from holiday yourself, so a lovely colour, I can imagine, but a bit jealous that you're not abroad as well.
Yeah, I'm alright. Yeah, just trying to ease myself back into work really after a week in the sun. So yeah, nice little tan, but yeah, just a bit gutted to be back. I've got the old holiday blues, as they say. So, yeah, here I am though.
Yeah, we both decided to get away for a little bit as soon as the football season ended. So yeah, that's the situation that we're in at the moment. Today is basically just a bit of a transfer chat. We're not into all this sort of clickbait nonsense, sort of reporting on every single name that comes out, whatever. We just have a little bit of a general chat. This is sort of just going to be like a normal sort of podcast. If you are listening on an audio only podcast, so Spotify, Apple, anything like that, this is available on YouTube as well. People watching on YouTube, this is available as audio only on our podcast channel. So if you search Villa on Tour podcast on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts from, you'll be able to find this as audio only as well. So like I said, this is basically just a generic transfer chat, positions that we're looking at, names, ins, out. We did a keep sell video actually, me and you, Simon. So if you haven't already checked that out, please go and do that. We went through every single player in the Villa squad and decided whether we keep them this summer or sell them, loan them out, decided basically what we do with them. Just before we crack on, if we can hit 1,000 likes on this video, that would be massively appreciated. Get involved in the comments as well. Let us know what you're thinking. Ins, outs, give us some names, give us your opinion on what we say. Just let us know what you're thinking in the comments below. So let's get into it. I do want to pick your brains a little bit about the whole situation with the Saudis. What's going on at the moment is mental. Literally every hour it seems like a big name is going to Saudi Arabia. The big one for me that's mental. Benzema going there from Real Madrid. £4 million a week. You're seeing stats of it broken down of like, you know, if he goes to the toilet, the time he spends in there, he'll earn like £4,000 by the time he comes back out. Honestly, the Saudi League are going mental. Kante as well, who's going for £2 million a week. Zaha might be going there. Literally, it's mental. Absolutely crazy what's going on there.
What do you think that's all about though? Do you think they're trying to start like some sort of Super League themselves? Because I was looking at this yesterday, and I don't really understand what their sort of aim is really. What's the end goal for it? Is what I'm trying to say. Why are they spending all this money? What are they trying to do? Because no one's even, I suppose, even aware of the Saudi League, or it doesn't exactly get any sort of exposure, does it? Back in Europe or worldwide. And so, do you remember when China was starting to do it? Like, years ago similar. As well. It's sort of similar vibes to that, isn't it? Like giving players like massive wages and massive contracts, and
this is another level though. It's crazy.
No, I know it's a different level, but I don't know. I just kind of think like, what's the sort of end goal for it? I'm just a little bit confused by it, that's all.
Yeah, I think Ronaldo sort of set the tone for it, didn't he, when he went there last year? But it's just gone mental this summer. Literally, a week or two into the transfer window. I don't even know if it's officially opened or whatever happens in Saudi Arabia. No one can speak to. No one knows about the league over there. No one knows anything about it. Is it just because they've got so much money they just want to play around and have a bit of fun? I don't know. I think it's absolutely bizarre, but you can't blame the players for going out there because the sums of money that you're seeing, it's crazy, isn't it? It's mental.
But then money in football's crazy anyway. Though I always say though, if you're being offered, say, I don't know, say $3 million a year compared to being offered $6 million a year, does it really matter for a footballer? I don't really. Do you know what I mean? It's not. I still don't think it's the be all and end all. I know they're getting paid like massive amounts of money, and it's a massive increase. But going to play in Saudi Arabia, even if a few of these clubs bring in all these players and spend all this money, you're not going to have the whole league being really competitive, though, are you? Like, it's not going to turn into some sort of like Super League, is it? Because not every single club are going to be able to do this in terms of the money side of it. So, I don't know. I'm a little bit confused as to what the actual objective is. Maybe it'll become a little bit more clear in the coming sort of weeks to months. But yeah, it's just come out of nowhere, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's bizarre. This transfer window, you can already sort of see that it's going to be mental. There's talks literally in the last sort of half an hour as we're recording that Messi might be off to the MLS for Inter Miami. Jude Bellingham looks like he's off to Real Madrid as well. Literally, you can just see this transfer window is just going to be a bit of a mental one. But we'll move on to Villa then. The most important thing the people watching are here to hear us talk about. Let's start then. We're going to go through sort of the positions that we think Villa really need to look at this summer, who we'd bring in. We'd throw a few names out there. So let's crack on. I'm going to start with the goalkeeper position. Let's start at the bottom. Obviously, I think we said in the Keep Sell video that we think Emi Martinez is here to stay, especially this season. But I think it's deeper than that. I think I'd probably let Robin Olsen go. Jed Steers obviously left this summer as well. He's left Villa. So I think we need at least one goalkeeper, potentially two.
Yeah, I agree. I think the manager will be looking at strengthening Martinez's backup. I think we need a ready and able backup for Martinez. He's not going to be able to play every single game next season. If we get into the Conference League group stages, he's not going to be able to play every game. And Emery wants to be serious about the cup competitions as well. And so for me to do that, you need to have a ready and able backup to be able to come in. And I think we know that Olsen's probably not good enough to be that. I wouldn't be surprised if Olsen gets shipped out or goes further down the pecking order if you can't get a move elsewhere. I think we'll bring a second choice goalkeeper in, and I think the other interesting part is I think say if Olsen was to stick around, I don't know if it'd even be like third choice though, because Conference League rules, or sorry, UEFA rules means that you have to have 4 academy players in your squad every match day, and you've got to assume that either one of Sinisalo or Philip Marshall will become one of those 4 players, because if you look around the rest of the squad, we've got Jacob Ramsey, obviously. You've got Archer, will probably come back and be one of them. And then your other one, you're looking at like a Aaron Ramsey or a Tim Arugbenham sort of thing. So that surely that one place will be a goalkeeper, Sinisalo or Marshall. And especially as you've seen it this season, how we've had 2 goalkeepers on the bench, one of them being like a Sinisalo sort of thing. And so I think Villa need to bring in a second choice goalkeeper who's going to, I wouldn't say fight with Martinez because that's unlikely, isn't it? But I think they need to bring in a better rate second choice goalkeeper who you're going to be able to rely and depend on if he needs to come into the side. So I think that'll be one definitely.
Yeah, I think the one of the main names that's sort of been bandied around is Bono, the goalkeeper from Sevilla. I really can't see that happening purely because he's first choice for Sevilla, first choice for Morocco. He was brilliant during the World Cup, but Sevilla have just won the Europa League and they're going to be playing Champions League football. I don't see why you'd want to come to Villa, be that second choice behind Martinez. It's a hard one, isn't it? We've seen it in the past with Man United and Tottenham when Hugo Lloris was in his prime, obviously not now, but when you've got sort of like such a strong first goalkeeper, it's difficult to sort of get somebody in behind sort of Emi Martinez, for example, but you need someone who's better than Olsen, is going to be competitive. It's an interesting point you made there about Sinisalo as well. We said in the Keep Sell video, you could see him potentially going out on loan. I think he might stick around, especially with that rule now.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty obvious that he might stick around, but I think definitely a second choice is what we're going to be looking at. So that's the goalkeeper situation. Centre-back's an interesting one. I think we'll move on to that. I'm just going to throw this out there. There's been links with Harry Maguire. I really don't see that. I think it's nonsense. Yes or no, would you take Harry Maguire at Villa this summer? What do you reckon?
No, but that's purely just because of how we play. We play a high line, and Harry Maguire doesn't suit playing a high line whatsoever. That's not me saying I think Harry Maguire is still a good player, and I think he needs to move, and I think he needs to be playing week in, week out somewhere. But I don't see Villa being the option for him just because of how we play. To be totally honest, he needs to go to somebody that doesn't play that high line, because if he came to Villa, I just feel like he would be majorly exposed. To be honest,
yeah, I think Man United spent 80 million on him as well. I just don't. I just can't see a world in which that happens from Maguire to Villa. Pau Torres, I don't know huge amounts about him, obviously from Villarreal. Emery probably knows him pretty well. Decent player, played a lot of football, I think 30 plus games in his last 5 seasons. Laporte was mentioned. I think that's nonsense. That will never happen. But in terms of just in general then, a centre-back, got Diego Carlos, got Konsa, got Mings. Those are your 3 main guys. Chambers probably looks like you might go out a little bit of Deadwood there. Obviously, Bednarek's nowhere to be seen now. You probably need a 4th choice, don't you, to push those 3 as well. Even to give you that potential choice of playing 3 at the back, I think you definitely need more depth.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Pau Torres one come off out of all of the ones you've just mentioned. I don't think Laporte's realistic, to be honest with you. I don't see why he'd come to us. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Pau Torres one happen. Quite close to Emery, isn't he? He played for Emery, and remember when he played against us in that friendly back in December, he looked very good actually. I wouldn't be that surprised to see that one happen. I think we will target a centre half purely because we still need to improve in that area, don't we? Even though we've been good and we got Mings, Konsa, and Carlos, and the thing you look at Carlos though, and obviously he's still got to come back and sort of prove himself, hasn't he? He's been out injured for a long time, and so there's no guarantees he'll come back and be absolutely brilliant. And so, and obviously with Chambers, I feel like we need to probably upgrade. Now we're in a European competition. I wouldn't be surprised if Chambers does move on and we bring another one in, and sort of you have that competition for places between Mings, Konza, Carlos, and a new one. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Pau Torres come in. If I'm being honest, I think it sort of matches. It sort of fits in, doesn't it? Again, depends on how much it costs, I suppose. But yeah, I wouldn't be that surprised to see that one happen.
Yeah, I think it's something that me and Dan mentioned in our sort of podcast we did the day after the Brighton game, where we said, you know, without European football going into a season, you might expect, okay, you probably don't need a fourth choice centre half. There's a massive plane going past, you can probably hear that. But I think because we're going to be playing so much football this year, you're talking, if we get through this qualifying round of the Conference League, you've got that. He's going to want to go far in the Cups, obviously the Premier League as well. You're going to have a couple of games a week at least. So you're going to need more depth. And that's something that has sort of been criticised Villa this season. You even look at Brighton on the last game of the season. You saw the sort of players they were bringing off the bench. And I know centre-back's a little bit different because obviously you don't tend to change that during the game unless you have to. But I just think in general, we need that more depth, don't we? And Emery's always talking about you need two players in each position that are sort of pushing each other. You don't want that goal for quality in each position. So we definitely need more players, I think, because we're in this sort of era now of European Aston Villa. I think we're going to have to see a different level in terms of, squad depth for sure.
Yeah, I think if we want to be successful, then 100%. Yeah, I totally agree. I think some of the predictions are a little bit pie in the sky. I think people thinking we're going to have a summer of major surgery and spend hundreds and hundreds of millions. That won't happen this summer because it doesn't need to happen. But we need a certain number, and we need a certain amount of quality as well. Because if we genuinely got aspirations to go and win a tournament, whatever that may be, we need to and still be decent in the league. We need that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just a side note, I'm looking at West Ham we're recording this on Wednesday, by the way. Just seeing West Ham in the final of the Conference League today in Prague, and all the fans are absolutely loving it. People's journeys to Prague and sort of singing in the squares, all the news people are there filming them. It just looks unbelievable. A little bit jealous of that, mate. I don't know if you've seen all that stuff on social media, but hopefully that's us in Athens where the final is next season anyway. Let's hope.
Yeah, no, it looks brilliant. And you know what? Just a word about West Ham because I'm so pleased for them. Really, I was talking to a West Ham fan a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying how this Europa Conference League game is probably going to be the biggest game he's ever watched West Ham in. And I'm just really pleased for them. And as a fellow British team, I hope they do it tonight. I really hope they do it for all their fans. And it just looks like an incredible atmosphere in Prague. And it does sort of like whet the appetite, doesn't it, for us to be on these sort of European adventures. And just imagine being in a European final. It would just be absolutely insane, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean they've got 5,000 tickets, which for a major final is ridiculous on itself. But it looks like thousands and thousands of more West Ham fans have gone out there who haven't got a ticket, which is probably what I'd do if I couldn't get a ticket, just because the crack and like everything that's going on over there at the moment looks absolutely fantastic. Let's move on to right back then. I haven't spoke to you since the news that Ashley Young has left Aston Villa. I think that screams that we're going to get a right back in, doesn't it, to rival Matty Cash? What are your thoughts on Ashley Young leaving? Because for me, a little bit surprised, and it screams that we're going to make sort of improvements in that fullback area.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised. I was a little bit disappointed. I thought that Ashley deserved a contract, if I'm being honest. I thought he'd had a really, really top season. Really, really dependable. High quality. Especially at right back, and he was keeping Matty Cash out of the team for a lot of the season. Yeah. And so I was a little bit disappointed, and I was probably a little bit surprised. Although I did think back, and Emery was kind of non-committal, wasn't he? Though, like before, he wasn't. He was praising Ashley Young, and he was saying how good he's been for us. But he was quite non-committal though. Like normally he'd be like, "Oh no, we want to keep him here," But he didn't say that. He was like, "We'll revisit it once the season's over." So kind of makes you think like he had this plan in his head all along, and so we'll have to get it right back in. There's no two ways about it. We've got only Cash, and he's not had a great injury record this season, so I think we're definitely going to have to get it right back in. And so Emery's probably looking at it he wants to improve on the squad, isn't he? And I think I've seen some things about Villa fans being a bit sentimental about Ashley Young, and I don't think that's quite fair because, like I say, I think Ashley Young's performances were really high level this season. So I was a bit disappointed, especially in terms of how versatile he can be playing in midfield and anywhere really. And so I was a bit disappointed with him. I would have given him another year personally, but I think it all leads to sort of Emery improving that squad and getting another right back in.
Yeah, Moreno being injured as well. Ashley Young could have covered that left-hand side, which
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's interesting. I would have expected him to sign a new deal, but whatever will be, will be. We've pretty much gone through every position so far, saying that we need new players. I think left-back, despite that Moreno injury that I've just mentioned, is probably one of the strongest positions we've got on the pitch, isn't it? That's what you sort of aim for, that Luca Dean Moreno, sort of those two levels of players sort of equally, but still different types of players, but they're both equally good quality for me. We saw that in the last couple of games with Luca Dean because he was so strong, Liverpool away, Brighton at home. So I think left back, we're pretty well set, aren't we? I know Moreno can't start the season, unfortunately, but we're pretty well set there, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. I think, don't get me wrong, I think in other circumstances, Moreno was fit and we got a decent offer for Luca Dean and somebody willing to take his wages on. I think Villa would listen to that just purely because it's a very expensive game having a backup left back who's on £150,000 a week or whatever, Villa's highest earner essentially. But the likelihood is, are Villa going to get an offer of, I mean, Villa would probably want upwards of 15, 16 million plus somebody then willing to take on his £150,000 a week wages, which is that realistic? I don't think it probably is. And so, it's a, I was going to say it's a bit of a win-win. We keep him, and he's a good player, and he's really good to have in competition with Moreno. But it's just a bit of a pricey game, isn't it? But it's a pricey game that we pay because we decided to give him a long-term contract with us and pay all that money. So it's not Luca Dean's fault. But yeah, we'll keep him around, and he'll start the season as our left back, because obviously Moreno probably won't be fit. So yeah,
I'm not too worried about Luca Dean starting the season. Like when the Moreno news came out, I wasn't massively worried or anything like that. Luca Dean showed it in the last couple of games, and in a side that's doing well, Luca Dean's a different sort of beast. I think he struggled a little bit sort of the middle part of this season, or under Gerrard he struggled a little bit, but I think in this new sort of side where we're playing well, the confidence is up, Luca Dean's a great option to have. Interesting one now, moving on to the midfield. We've seen the links with Youri Tielemans this week. By the time you're watching this, something might have changed, whatever. Let's hope so, because I'd love to have him at Villa. But free contracts, I think there's links with Roma there as well. It's a really interesting one. He's obviously going to leave Leicester. He's obviously out of contract, like I said. I'd love Youri Tielemans at Villa.
Yeah, I think he would be a good signing. I think he would be a really good signing, and I think it would be good if we could get sort of a free transfer over the line as well, because it helps free up a little bit of cash elsewhere to spend this summer on other positions. But I'm just aware of the fact that obviously with these high profile free transfer signings that you tend to get a lot of competition with them. I think we saw that with the links to Asensio, didn't we? And he's obviously gone to PSG, and I think Tielemans will be the same. To be honest, I think there'll be a lot of competition. There'll be a lot of clubs in for him, and so it'll probably depend on the financial package you offer him and how attractive you are as a club. And maybe we'll have an advantage because obviously he'll be residing in towards Leicester way, I would have thought at the moment. So we might have an advantage sort of
true.
geographically where we are. I think there's a long way to go in this one, if I'm being honest. I know there's been a lot of rumours and stuff, but I think there's probably a long way to go. I'd love it to happen. I think it'd be a good signing, a really good competition, and he's the type of player that Emery would usually target as well. Sort of a player that was once a very, seen as a very top player who could earn a really big money move somewhere, and then he's gone through a period where he's probably struggled a little bit, and I think Emery quite likes those sort of players that he can work with and get them back up to where they were. So for me, he'd be a perfect, typical sort of Emery signing, and one I'd like to happen, but I just think there's probably a long way to go in this one, if I'm being honest. I think there's a few more twists and turns to come.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think there's a load of internationals, isn't there, in June? He's in the Belgium squad, obviously. So if something was going to happen, probably wouldn't happen till the end of that when he's probably decided what he wants to do. But Villa, I think in this deal, Villa are pretty attractive. I think, like you've touched on there, geographically, probably. Well, if he does have to move house, it won't be far, whatever. I don't know whether he's got kids or a wife or whatever, but people don't think about that thing. But like things like that are really important. If he was to up sticks and go and move to Rome, there's a lot of things going on there. Move to Paris, whatever. But Leicester isn't that far from Birmingham, things like that. And I think like what you said there, Emery is so good at improving players. And Tielemans has, because he was in that poor sort of Leicester side the last year or two, he has stumbled a little bit. If you want to sort of improve your career and reignite it in the biggest league in the world, you'd probably want to do it in the Premier League under Unai Emery. And Villa, who are on a massively upwards curve, spending money, improving the side, playing in Europe, I think we're pretty bloody attractive. And I can see this one coming off. And people might think, well, where does he fit in because of this Luiz and Kamara midfield that's been so good? I don't think you look at it like that. In that way, because we've already talked about it, the amount of games that hopefully we're going to have next season, Europe, Cups. I think Louise isn't going to play every single game. Kamara's had his injury issues. He's not going to play every single game. Sometimes they will sit out on the bench. They can't play every single game. There's going to be so many next season, hopefully. So I can see this one coming off, and I think we're pretty attractive to Tielemans.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think we are attracted to a lot of players these days. I just think it depends if we're coming up against teams that can offer Champions League football. I think that could be.
Mm,
I think that could be the bit that blows us out the water a little bit.
yeah.
But who knows? Who knows? I mean, I think it'd be a good signing. And the thing about fitting in to the team, as you say, it's that we're going to have a big squad, and he'll play his fair share in terms of rotation. But I think Villa's midfield is so fluid as well. Though I think you're looking at like Douglas Luiz and how many like assists and goals he's got this season, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me to see like Douglas Luiz played further forward at times. If I'm being honest, I think all of them could do that. I think even Kamara could do that. Really, I don't think there's. I think Villa's midfield is so fluid that. I wouldn't rule out him, like if Tielemans did join, I wouldn't rule out him being in the same team as a Kamara and a Louise at times, because I
Yeah.
think the midfield is that fluid, if I'm being honest. And so I think he'd be a really good signing. But yeah, I think I don't think it's going to be done quickly. Obviously, his contract doesn't officially run out until the end of June, the 30th of June. And so I think it'll be around then. You probably hear, I think this one might drag on a little bit. He's going to have a lot of offers on the table. It's going to be the one that matches him the best in terms of financially, probably geographically as well. Whether he wants to play Champions League football or whether he's happy just playing Conference or Europa League, whatever. Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of clubs in for him though.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because he's been linked with Arsenal, Liverpool, United, loads of Champions League clubs in the past because he's been a very good player for Leicester. I think you're probably talking 2 or 3 years ago at his peak. I know he scored the winning goal, didn't he, in the FA Cup for Leicester when they won it in 2021. That was a great goal, by the way. He's got a bit of everything. I think he's got similar sort of figures in the past to sort of Louise in terms of goals and assists. I think his best season for Leicester, 6 goals, 4 assists, so similar sort of level. But you're right, though. Villa's midfield is so fluid. It just gives you that option, doesn't it? And I think we're definitely going to be targeting a player sort of on the same sort of profile to Yuri Tielemans this summer. So that'll be an interesting one. Hopefully that one comes off. Moving slightly further forward on the pitch then, another midfielder sort of, you're probably looking at someone who's in a similar sort of mould to Jacob Ramsey, John McGinn in terms of, yes, they're a midfielder, but they can play out wide as well. Sort of like a hybrid role. We've already talked about how fluid Villa are. That's probably up there with one of the most crucial things I think we need to do this summer.
What you mean to compete with Ramsey and McGinn, or do you mean to compete?
Yeah,
with
sort of
Bailey
like that wide midfield. I think Bailey Watkins role is sort of a little bit something else. I think that's a different sort of position. Maybe someone who can play both of them. I don't know, but someone who can play that Ramsey McGinn sort of role in the side.
Yeah, possibly. I don't think we'll sign. Well, I think looking at the bigger picture, I don't think we'll sign, for instance, a Tielemans, and then Tielemans together with like a replacement or someone to challenge McGinn and Ramsey, Bailey and Watkins. Though I don't see us making that many signings, if I'm being honest. And so I think we'll target someone to play over on that right hand side where sort of Bailey Bailey or Buendia sort of players. But I don't see us signing that as well as somebody to compete with McGinn and Ramsey, if you know what I'm trying to say. I feel like we'd be a little bit. I think we'd be asking for a bit too much. I don't see the club being able to spend that much money. So
you're gonna have to spend an awful lot of money to get all of that, aren't you?
Yeah, and so I think in terms of McGinn and Ramsey, they've been so vital to us. I think they'll be they'll be starting most games. But I think if we sign somebody on the right hand side of that midfield, I think you're right. It'll be that sort of wide, sort of wingery type of player, like a Bailey who can sort of track back into midfield as well, but also play that further forward, like McGinn and Ramsey sort of do. So I think there'll be one over on that side of the pitch. Whether it be like an out-and-out winger who can drop back, or whether it be more midfielder who can drop into the wing, I'm not too sure. But I think we'll make one signing over there, definitely.
We didn't talk about Aaron Ramsey in our Keep or Sell video. I don't know why. I got the Villa squad off the Villa website, and he just wasn't featured on there as a lone player. Not sure why, so we completely forgot him. I think he's an interesting one. Do you reckon he sticks around? I think he's obviously had a very good half of the season at Middlesbrough. Obviously started the season at Norwich, where it went okay. Obviously Dean Smith leaving there, it sort of got uprooted a little bit of troubles over there. But he did well at Middlesbrough, didn't he? We went to go and watch him against Bristol City, where he scored. He looked very, very good in that game, probably Middlesbrough's best player. He's come a long way in a very short period of time. So, especially with European football, I think he's got a part to play. It'd be interesting to see what happens pre-season. Unai Emery looking at him, see what he thinks. I think it's going to be interesting.
I think he probably stays, and that's purely because obviously we need his quota in Europe, number one.
Yeah.
And when you look at that, I think if you look at some of the other players that you think, oh, we could put them on the bench against these teams from Europe, you're looking at probably the likes of obviously Tim Arugbenham. Then you're looking at the likes of probably like a Josh Feeney, the sort of player. And then after that, there's not that many others. And so for me, like you
Yeah.
look at those two I just mentioned, and Tim has only had 1 year at QPR in a sort of struggling side, and obviously Josh Feeney's only quite young. He's only just turned 18, and he hasn't had a loan spell anywhere yet. And
Yeah.
so Villa are probably looking at it thinking maybe Josh will end up moving out on loan somewhere. And so I think the player with the more experience in terms of being on loan is Aaron Ramsey. Obviously, he's been at Cheltenham, he's been at Norwich, he's been at Middlesbrough. And so for me, I think he's got a part to play this season. I think he'll stick around. And again, as I think I said this to you before, I think he'll find minutes easy to come by because of the position he plays in. He plays in that
Yes.
obviously advanced. He's quite fluid, isn't he? You could probably play him anywhere in that midfield or forward area under Unai Emery. Again, he's probably the ideal player for Unai Emery. Don't get me wrong; he's very raw and he's very young and he's probably got a lot to work on. But I think with all the games and especially with this academy quota that you need to have, I think he's the ideal candidate myself.
Yeah, that Bristol City game against Middlesbrough that me and you went to watch couple of months ago. He ran the show in that game. He was really, really good. A goal and an assist. And you're thinking, where's this Aaron Ramsey come from? We've talked about it a million times. That Cheltenham loan spell that he had wasn't the best, but he's come, like I said earlier, such a long way in a short period of time. And like you said, he sort of feels like that player that Unai Emery would like. He's sort of similar to his brother in terms of he can carry the ball. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there, especially with the European quota as well. So hopefully he sticks around and another homegrown player. That'll be an interesting one. But the main position I think you talked about a couple of minutes ago that we need to look at this summer is a hybrid. We think it will be a hybrid sort of forward winger Bailey role to sort of rival Watkins as well. Sort of forward right hybrid sort of player. That sort of vibe is what we're going for, purely because if Watkins would have got injured towards the end of the season, we'd have been in big, big trouble. Bailey's been a little bit slow. Traore, we think, will be off. I think we need to get some probably, I think we'll break our record in that area of the pitch, our transfer record, that is. I think we'll spend big there. That's my prediction, anyway.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm a bit torn by it. I don't know. I don't know whether it depends what sort of player we buy. I think if it's an 8-8 striker, then I don't think we will break our transfer record just because I don't know who's available out there. But we need somebody up in that position, definitely, because as you say, if Watkins had got injured, we would have had problems. But I mean, strikers are so hard to come by, though, aren't they? Strikers, good strikers are really hard to come by. But we do need somebody up there. As you say, Bailey's been a bit inconsistent, and Traore, we think he might move on. Who knows? And so we need. So again, it depends. It depends which way they go. They could either sign sort of a central midfielder who can play out wide, and then they'll sign a striker, or they could sign sort of a hybrid sort of winger and who can play up front and then sign that midfielder as well. It could work loads of different ways, couldn't it? But I don't know. I don't see us signing an 8-8 striker. I think it will be sort of a player who's like an attacking sort of midfielder, come striker, like a hybrid sort of player. That's what I see happening. And I think it would be. I think they're easy to sign because I think there's more of them around than an 8-8 striker is. And I think Duran probably goes on loan, if I'm being honest, and then we've got the whole thing about whether Cam Archer comes back or not, and again, I think he probably comes back.
Yeah, I think me and you have already talked about it. We think Cam Archer will be massively involved. I think he's a different level to Duran by an absolute mile. He's proved it wherever he's been. Cam Archer, he's scored goals. So I think he has to be around it next season. He has to be. I think I want to see him play a lot of football because it'd be interesting to see what happens because he's, like I said, he's proved it. He's scored goals wherever he's been. He's got a lot of assists as well. So he's got that sort of link-up play. I don't know. I just really, really, really want to see Cam Archer involved. And I think because he's done so well and he'll be involved, I don't see us signing that number 9. I think you're probably going to see more of a wide player who possibly can play up there as an option if needs be. Nico Williams has been linked. I think he'd be someone who, I don't know loads about him, but he'd probably be someone that will break your record. I think he's turning 21 this summer from Bilbao. I think we were linked with him in January as well. Unai Emery was a big fan of him apparently. So someone who is a winger, pace, sort of that Bailey sort of model, can play up top because I don't think Bailey's going anywhere. People talk about Leon Bailey. He's not going anywhere. Traore probably will do. So that's probably where we need to look at, isn't it?
I think so. I don't see Bailey going anywhere. I think Emery quite likes him, to be honest. I think he
played a lot of games. Played a lot of games.
He has, and I think his numbers weren't bad. If we're being honest, his numbers weren't bad. Okay, some of his performances, and he doesn't often pull out 90-minute performances. He does 20 minutes here and there, and fans get frustrated with that, and I don't get that. But I think I think Emery likes him, to be honest with you, and so I don't see Bailey going anywhere. I think he'll become more of a squad player. But I don't see Bailey going anywhere. I think the summer's really interesting, and I feel like it's a real unknown for Villa, really, because we know we need to improve, and we know we need to bring in a good probably 4, 5, 6 players. But I don't know. I find it a bit interesting because we've spoken for years about we're going to spend this amount of money and we're going to break this transfer record and break that one, and sometimes it doesn't quite come off, does it? And so I'll be interested to see if it does come off this summer. I think it's like a real unknown this summer, and I know everyone's really excited about it, thinking we're going to sign loads and loads of players, and I don't think we'll sign loads, but I just find it interesting to see how much we will spend and what sort of players we will target. I think it's going to be quite an interesting summer. It might be a bit of a frustrating summer because of the level of players that we are targeting. We're up against some very good teams probably for them, and so I think patience is probably going to have to be key for all of us. But yeah, it's exciting though, isn't it?
Yeah, look, this isn't career mode. Like, you can't just go and pick and choose who you want. It's really not that easy. Like, you've talked about it with Tielemans. You might just think, oh, easy, he's on a free, he's from Leicester, let's just go and do it. Yeah. But you'll have so many options, for example. So it's not as easy as people think. I still think we're in for an interesting one, an exciting one. How many, you touched on it then, how many do you reckon we'll get then? I think we're looking at probably 5. And I'm not including a second choice goalkeeper in that. I'm probably looking at 5. Do you think?
Probably 4. I think 4 or 5 plus, and then not including the goalkeeper. So 5 or 6 essentially is what I'd say, including the goalkeeper.
Here's an interesting one for you. Would you take any players from relegated teams? I remember we talked about this in the pub after the Brighton game. Harvey Barnes has been quite strongly linked. I'd quite like that as sort of that left-sided player. He's ripped Villa apart so many times. Loves a goal against Villa. I really, really like Harvey Barnes. Who else would you take him firstly, and would you take anybody else from any of those relegated sides going down from the Premier League? What do you think?
I'd probably take Barnes. I think he would fit into Villa's sort of system and how Emery likes to play. Again, it depends how much he would cost, though. I wouldn't want to be absolutely stung by Leicester, though. So it would depend on how much he would cost. Would I take any others? It really depends. It really, really depends. You know, I know there's a good few like young players at Southampton, aren't there? Which might be interesting to see how much you could get some of those.
James Ward-Prowse, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Would you sign him?
I think the ship's sort of sailed myself on James Ward-Prowse. I think he's a good player, and I think he probably would have been a good player in the Dean Smith system when Dean Smith was trying to buy him. I'm not convinced he would that much in the Emery system. I think Emery likes players that buzz around quite a lot, got a lot of energy, and I'm not sure Ward-Prowse is that player. He keeps things very simple, doesn't he? And his main attribute is his set piece taking. And I don't know. I don't think I'd go for Ward-Prowse. I think he'd be Southampton would demand still a lot of money for him, even though they're in the Championship. And
I think he screams sort of Tottenham, West Ham. I think he will probably end up at someone like that.
I just don't. I don't see it happening, if I'm being honest. Yeah. But yeah, there might be other ones though that you're surprised about. There might be like other players that are going on the sort of cheap that from relegated clubs that you'd be a bit surprised about. Like the one I was like looking at the other day, like I saw Leicester are still in talks with like Johnny Evans to extend his contract, and he's the sort of player that he's out of contract, and yet he's the sort of player that a lot of Premier League teams wouldn't mind having him as a sort of like a third, fourth choice centre half in the Premier League.
He gives me vibes of sort of Craig Dawson. Do you remember when he everyone had forgot about him, and then he came out of absolutely nowhere and was like incredible for West Ham, and now he's gone to Wolves and playing week in, week out there. Sort of similar vibes to that. Yeah, you're right. Sort of, you got these big names flowing around on Twitter and stuff, but we'll have a few unexpected ones as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of players out there like that, so it'll be interesting to see that, definitely.
Yeah, decent. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Simon. Appreciate it. Always enjoy chatting about transfers. I think some people go about it in different sort of ways in terms of all the clickbait stuff and all that sort of thing. But I think, look, we're not pretending to know anything. We don't know anything. This is just general chat. We know as much as anyone else. But final words, mate. I think it's we've already said it's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be an exciting one. Just enjoy it, everyone. Enjoy the transfer merry-go-round.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't, to be honest with you, I can't wait for it to be back. I don't like this time of year. I don't like this time of year at all. And the transfer merry-go-round.
What do we do with our Saturdays? What do we do with our Saturdays now?
I've already been looking, thinking, how many free weekends have I got before pre-season starts? Before we have the Warsaw game before we go to America and stuff. And so, I'm already counting down. I can't wait for the return of it already. This transfer thing, it doesn't do it for me. I'd rather be watching a game, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm buzzing to be back. We've only only being off for a week and a half. So yeah,
exactly. Bring back the football. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on it. If you are watching on YouTube, get involved in the comments as well. Let us know what you are thinking. If you have listened on audio-only platforms, on our podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, please do leave a review over there and subscribe so you never miss a podcast over there. Podcasts that you don't get on YouTube as well. So if you are watching on YouTube, go and subscribe to our podcast channels because there is content over there that you don't get on YouTube. And after all of that, thank you very much for watching, and up the Villa.